going to start talking about one of my favorite places that doesn't even exist anymore. It's called Tenochtitlan. And this is, or was, the capital of the Aztec Empire. If you remember the Aztecs were around at the time Cortez showed up. They started in about 1325. This is CE, and Cortez came onto this city on November 8th, 1519. And this was a great empire. In fact, there were hundreds of thousands of people. Nobody's sure exactly, but we think the city at its prime, which was when Cortez showed up, had several 100,000 people in it. So the question comes in, where do the Aztecs come from? Well, the Aztecs, by tradition, they were a wandering tribe of people, probably breaking off from the Mayan people, because remember the Mayan people existed before. They started around 200 BCE. They still existed at this time, but they were way in their downfall. Their peak was around 1200 CE, and they were starting to fall down at this point. But the Aztecs were this wandering tribe, and the neat thing about this tribe of people is there was a prophecy about it. The prophecy was that once they found a very specific location, they would become a very great people. So this nomadic tribe that's wandering around had a prophecy that where they saw an eagle eating a snake, standing on a cactus, was where they would found their city and they would become this great empire. Well, we don't know how long they wandered around until they saw this, but they found it. They found it in the middle of a lake. The lake is Lake Texcoco. On the middle of the lake, in an island, they saw a cactus with an eagle eating a snake sitting on the cactus. They knew that was where they would develop this great city. So what did they do? They actually expanded the island. They went out there, they added dirt, made the island bigger. They started making roads, filling up the lake, making the island bigger and bigger. As the city grew and grew, they had a great central area in the city. And eventually the lake is completely filled and it's totally gone. This lake is where modern day Mexico City is, the capital of Mexico, which is huge and has millions of people now. The lake is completely gone, it got completely filled in. So the Mexican people are descendants from the Aztecs, the ones that were local there, which is why this is the Mexican flag. The Mexican flag has this prophecy of the Aztecs on the flag. That's where it comes from. And since modern Mexico City is there, there are no ruins there that you can see directly. Instead, we just have remnants of it. Now, this was a drawing made by a Jesuit priest who showed up about 100 years later than Cortez, came on to this Aztec city. Okay? And he drew this or painted this picture of it from about that time, about the 1700s or so. And this was when it was in its heyday. Now, cool thing about it is you can see the lake still was there. The lake is long gone now. Mexico City is very neat. It's very high. It's at an elevation of about 6,000 feet high. And it's surrounded by mountains. Lots of these are volcanoes, and the volcanoes are active. Many times they can see smoke and stuff rising from the volcanoes in the distance right from Mexico City. In the center of the city they had this great plaza where they had very large buildings where they did worship. It was also the center of all their culture. People would come there and they would trade goods, and it was a center of religious, it was a center of their government. All these areas here, we think the island originally was one of these small islands. They expanded this out to create this giant island in the center. Then they created roads. The roads are lined up So this is south, east, and west. There's no road to the north. But they lined them up with cardinal points. Not only did they line them up with cardinal points, but you can see their other roads are also gridded out. They did it like we do a modern city, where we line up all our roads north, south, east, and west, for the most part. But back at this time, this was not usually done. The roads were just kind of randomly, whichever way the roads went, going from one place to another, they would just put them on. But they took into account the cardinal directions and lined them up with the cardinal directions. So that was the first astronomical alignment. They lined them up with the cardinal points. Also, this is where we're located. So this is right in Mexico, and this is the capital of Mexico. As we can talk, this is modern Mexico City. You can see the lake is totally gone. This is the airport here. Mexico City is huge. The center of it is up here, but yeah, nothing's left. Supposedly, though, some of the buildings near the center of Mexico City, their foundation had these giant rocks, which were actually rocks from Tenochtitlan, from the original Aztec city, and they just built the buildings on top of those. So way down at the base of the buildings, there are some rocks that were original to that, but other than that, there's not much left. It's pretty much all gone. Now, we do know that they had a very special building. This building here, this is a model of it. This was called Templo Mayor. Templo Mayor. Make sure I'm spelling that right. This building was very large. You can see these are about the size of people on the top up here. So this building was very, very large, very elaborate. Steps going all the way up the front, viewing platforms, a double top on it. Okay? That was to their different gods. And as you can see, I can't pronounce this, but these were for very specific Aztec gods. This one on the side here, they call the Temple of Tlac. And the one on this side is the one that is really hard to pronounce. It is like Quetzalcoatl or something like that. This over here, this is for the god, the Aztec god of sun and war. And this one is for the god of rain and fertility. All right. Now, this was all here when Cortez showed up. And there were some very interesting things that happened when Cortez showed up. Cortez knew that there was this great civilization of people in central Mexico. He came in from the coast. He actually was trying to rally the people, which were mostly Mayans, out on the coast, because he wanted to go fight these people because he heard they had lots of gold. That was his goal was to get gold. And so he was trying to get the Mayans to support him, to build an army and to gather these people that didn't like the Aztecs and to get them to fight. But he didn't have much success. In fact, he had almost no success at all. The Mayan people didn't want to get in a battle. They knew how great this civilization was. Hundreds of thousands of people. They were known for human sacrifice. All the things you've heard of are probably true. And so Cortez did show up. And the people there didn't know what to expect of him. We will talk about this later when we talk about Mayan calendars, because the Aztec's calendar is really a descendant of the Mayan calendar. But there's a very special thing that happens every 52 years. Their calendar kind of resets. It's kind of like when we had our 100 years. And it was the year 2000, everybody was excited, it was the new millennium. Same thing here, but theirs happens every 52 years. They didn't go 100 years before they switched over. Every 52 years they would switch. Well, it just so happened that when that occurs, the Aztecs believed, kind of like the Mayans, that all kinds of gods could come down and talk to them, and there would be interactions with the people and the gods. That was exactly when Cortez showed up at the city. So they didn't know what to take Cortez for. They didn't know if he was a god or if he was an invading force or what he was. Well, it didn't take long before they got in a battle with Cortez. Cortez, though, even though he only had like 50 guys, could take them all down because he had muskets at that time. And so he didn't even have to get close to his enemy, and he could start shooting them. And just the sound, and then a guy would just fall next to you without ever even seeing the projectile, was unheard of for these people. And it didn't take long for Cortez to pillage and ravage and cause destruction. Most of the destruction was actually not caused by his muskets. Most of it was as they brought European diseases like smallpox and things that devastated and pretty much wiped out most of the Native Americans. Not just Cortez, but all the people that followed after, especially the Jesuit priests that decided that they needed Christianity, so they sent all their missionaries out there. Well, the problem is they didn't realize it, but the missionaries were bringing all the European diseases, and it was killing off the people as well. All right, so what's the astronomical alignment of this building? Well, the cool thing about this building is it was built specifically in the direction so that, let me show you, I got a picture. You can see it here. So this is the picture that we showed before, the painting of it. But this was the center